why isn't Paige, probably what people think is, why isn't she as popular as Caitlyn? But do you think Paige should be more popular? And Paige deserves more, and Angel Reese deserves more, and Asia, and Fee, and.
Yeah.
I think specific to Paige, you might argue her popularity and the people that are fans of her has been underrated, which shocks me.
Okay, this is wild. What happens when one of the WNBA's most respected legends seemingly questions the spotlight around Caitlin Clark? That's exactly the storm Sue Bird created when she leaned into the Paige Bucker's hype. But here's what the media won't tell you. Clark has already proven she can electrify crowds, set attendance records, and lift an entire franchise's performance and visibility. So why is Sue Bird thinking Paige deserves the same level of treatment when she clearly hasn't proven herself yet? Stick around, because answering that question reveals the real power behind Caitlyn's rise and why Sue Bird's betrayal hurts deep. So why do you think Sue Bird has turned her back on Clark? Let us know down below if you're Team Caitlyn or Team Paige. I can't believe we're still doing this.
Really? There is this seeming desire to be able to wish or will other players into Caitlin Clark's level of popularity. And that is not something you can just make happen. You can't say it and make it the case.
Why would Sue Bird, one of the WNBA's most respected voices, risk taking heat from fans by saying Paige Buckers deserves more attention? That single statement hit like a stray elbow because of who said it and where she said it. Bird has long been treated as the voice of the league, not just another retired player giving opinions. When she praises someone or pushes a narrative on a podcast or TV segment, people listen. Her influence isn't casual. It comes with the weight of someone who's been positioned for years as both ambassador and spokesperson for the WNBA. That's exactly why Caitlin Clark fans heard those words less like harmless praise for Paige and more like a targeted swipe at the league's biggest new star.
And so clearly Paige is not as popular as Caitlin Clark. It's not even close. And yet Sue Bird wants you to think that, no, it really is. Don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe the ratings. Don't believe the attendance.
The delivery mattered.
And get this, Bird didn't drop this thought casually in a locker room chat. She said it on air, in a polished setting, as someone who knows her words set the tone. That formality transformed the message, making it more than just one player appreciating another. It suddenly sounded like a deliberate choice, almost a correction, that Paige should be in the conversation more. To Clark's supporters, it felt like being told their organic passion, their ticket buying, their jersey wearing, wasn't deserved, nor did it even count. That stings when you've been part of the crowd driving record-breaking viewership numbers and selling out arenas across the country.
And I think people forgot how popular and how engaging Paige is and how people are drawn to her. She should be followed and covered in a way that is similar to what we saw with Caitlyn, because that's how popular she is.
Yeah.
It's not to compare them, and it's not to diminish Caitlyn. That's not what it's about.
Right.
It's just about talking about Paige. I think it was undervalued, underrated.
The internet's reaction proved just how loaded the comment was. Fans flooded comment sections, accusing Bird of diminishing Clark's climb rather than simply elevating Buckers. Some did defend her, suggesting she only wanted balance, but perception is everything. And in this case, the optics were brutal. Bird may have insisted she wasn't dragging down Caitlyn, but even her loyal followers acknowledged that's exactly how it came across. Her UConn ties and the league's long-standing reputation for boosting certain players over others made people speculate this wasn't about Paige's play at all, but about keeping attention from being monopolized by Clark.
That popular, and you're just underrating it. It's really kind of a bizarre take. I mean, if Paige is really that popular and that engaging and people are really drawn to her, we would see with Paige what we see with Caitlin Clark, and we don't.
And ironically, by suggesting Paige deserves more, Bird actually widened the divide instead of closing it. You don't fix imbalance by forcing equality in popularity, especially when one player is already lighting up ESPN highlight reels nightly, and the other is still searching for consistent mainstream traction. The attempt to script a rivalry ended up throwing even more spotlight on how naturally Caitlyn pulls eyes and ears her way. Meanwhile, Paige became the person fans felt needed defending or propping up. Caitlyn herself never called for this tug of war, yet Bird's words built that feeling artificially.
Caitlin Clark is just exciting, guys. It's must-see TV.
It's must-see TV. You plan your day around a Caitlin Clark basketball game. You wake up in the morning. What time? You go check ESPN. What time is Caitlin Clark playing? Oh, the game is at 7. All right, I'm planning everything around that.
So instead of creating harmony, the whole exchange amplified what everyone already knew. Caitlin Clark's rise doesn't need validation, campaigns, or corrections. Her way of pulling attention works because it's raw, unscripted, and magnetic. And that is exactly why the comparisons feel forced. Because while legends can talk and media can speculate, Clark keeps shifting the spotlight just by playing the game.
Paige Beckers is not as popular as Caitlin Clark because she's not Caitlin Clark. It's so hard for the likes of Sue Bird to say that. It hurts them. So there's been a lot of scuttlebutt since Caitlin Clark announced that she's done for the season. There's been a lot of talk about, Paige Beckers, it's Paige time. Do you guys not understand how basketball works? We're headed into the postseason. Paige's team has won 9 games all season.
So how did Caitlin Clark go from her very first WNBA game to becoming the headline name on every sports show without anyone needing to push it? That's the part that truly irritates her critics. Nothing about her rise feels manufactured. The obsession didn't come from a marketing campaign or from a league desperate to force a new face. It came from the way she plays basketball. Fans showed up, tuned in, and started buying her jersey well before the league itself figured out how to keep up with the demand. From the start, you could feel the shift. Attendance didn't just rise, it exploded, with Indiana suddenly leading the league in average spectators at over 16,000 per game. That number alone tells you she isn't just attracting attention, she's driving a movement large enough to lift the WNBA's entire media share from niche coverage to constant discussion across national outlets.
It wasn't manufactured. It just happened. It is what it is. I mean, she's been out for 2 months and is still the topic of discussion. Not to mention the ratings and the attendance numbers and teams moving to arenas and the Nike deal and jersey sales and all-star votes and any way these things can.
And the impact can absolutely be measured. The effect spilled far beyond ticket sales. Television ratings spiked a massive 21%, a jump that speaks directly to Clark's influence, catching casual sports fans who rarely tuned in before. It's not just about watching basketball anymore, it's about watching Caitlin. At the same time, merchandise sales soared, with Clark's jersey becoming one of the hottest items in all of basketball. These are measurable, concrete results tied to one player, and yet, despite these undeniable facts, Sue Bird still suggested Paige Beckers deserves equal shine, as if attention can somehow be redistributed like playing time. That argument collapses fast because no player in years has moved every measurable number the way Clark has.
Beckers isn't as good as Caitlin Clark. Paige Beckers isn't as fun to watch as Caitlin Clark. Her team stinks. Her team plays with zero effort. Paige Beckers plays with no motor down the stretch because you know it's going to be a close game. You know the Wings are going to lose, and you know Paige Beckers isn't going to show up every time. There was an opportunity with Caitlin gone for Paige Beckers to take over. And what has Paige Beckers done? She had a 44-point game in a loss where she didn't shoot down the stretch.
What makes her rise harder to deny are the moments that effortlessly turn into instant highlights. The logo threes, the whip passes threading through defenders, and those end-of-game daggers are simply impossible to ignore. That's the key difference between Beckers' best outings and Clark's weekly performances. Paige's 44-point explosion barely trended outside basketball circles, while Clark's daily highlights get pushed by every sports outlet as if she were the only player on the court. It isn't favoritism, it's the result of who actually forces audiences to pay attention. The electricity Clark brings translates into record-shattering recognition. By the end of her rookie season, she had broken 62 records, and she didn't stop there either. Indiana pushed into 2 straight playoff hunts after years of irrelevance. Before Clark came along, the Fever were at the bottom of the league and hadn't seen the playoffs in almost a decade. That turnaround mattered. It's one thing to have stats, it's another to lift an entire franchise into a different category.
And the thing is like, yeah, she might end up overtaking Caitlin Clark in points per game. She might end up overtaking Caitlin Clark in points per game. I think she might get 0.1 points per game. I think she needs like 23 or 24 points in the last game. But let's not forget, Caitlin Clark, if she had put up 22 points or something, she was going to average 20 a game last season, but she didn't play. Her and Kelsey Mitchell played 5 minutes. She didn't play in the second half. She didn't play. She played like 15 minutes. But Paige is going to have to play 40 in a meaningless game to overtake Caitlin Clark in points per game on the worst team in basketball. She's guaranteed to be the only ever rookie of the year to be on a
Beyond the numbers, Clark's magnetism truly lies in how people connect with her. Fans rally around her aura, not just her box scores. Whether it's her pre-game fits, her quick quips at refs, or the way she gestures with teammates after big plays, she's relatable while being unmistakably a star. That blend of charisma and dominance makes her contagious. Suddenly, people know names like Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, and Kelsey Mitchell, not because of a promotional push, but because Caitlin's spotlight expanded enough to pull them in with her. Those teammates benefit from exposure every night, and the Fever's new identity absolutely reflects that.
End of the month, it is over with. And you want to know what else is over? The debate that Paige is better than Caitlin. That is over too. Because you want to know why? Because Caitlin went to the playoffs her rookie year, and unfortunately, Paige ain't going.
Contrast that with Paige's struggle. Her team's poor record and lack of consistent national placement mean her accomplishments feel isolated, sometimes even buried. Forced comparisons simply collapse under this imbalance. When one player makes her franchise primetime relevant and another can't help her team escape the bottom of the standings, pretending both deserve identical national embrace feels empty. Clark doesn't need legends staging a narrative for her. She's built her own, and the league is living in her wake. And this is exactly why any attempt to flatten that difference by dragging Paige into the spotlight only exposes how wide the gap has already become.
When Caitlin Clark's playing, when she's playing an unbelievable game, everyone's live tweeting the game. When Paige Beckers has her 44-point game, you don't hear a single thing about it until after the game. And then the only reason you hear about it is because people then get their viral tweets by saying, oh, Caitlin Clark could never. And
Okay, so why does the media keep trying to force a rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers when the two aren't even operating in the same space? That's the question fans have been asking ever since Sue Bird's "Paige deserves more" comment blew up into something much bigger than what it was meant to be. Before that, Caitlin and Paige weren't being measured side by side on this kind of stage. They were two standout guards in their own right. Now, every discussion about Clark's dominance seems to bring up what Paige is or isn't doing, even though their careers, their teams, and their circumstances just don't match.
She is a global brand. And now here's the I say with the caveat of, look, this is the WNBA, and we all know what that means. So there aren't guarantees for Caitlin Clark's height of popularity. We don't know how the CBA is going to shake out. We don't know how the treatment of Caitlin Clark in the league is going to shake out with the injuries and all of that. But understanding that, setting that aside for a moment, Caitlin Clark could very well be a global brand in the way Michael Jordan was for Nike and his brand, and being a billion-dollar.
The real fuel for this so-called rivalry came when Bird's words turned into headlines. Overnight, things shifted from celebrating Clark's greatness to rehashing the idea that Bueckers is underappreciated. That framing immediately put fans on opposite sides, even though Caitlin herself never invited the comparison. By creating that balance on paper, media outlets essentially invented a debate that would never have existed if left alone. Suddenly, Paige's highlights, instead of being judged on their own, are treated like counterpoints to Clark's.
what does Paige Beckers do? Paige Beckers, they're down 9 points. She goes to the basket. She makes a layup, and then she rams over Kelsey Plum. Like, that's basically what she did. She scores, complains to the referee, turns around and rams over an opposing team's player, and just keeps running back.
Let's consider the Kelsey Plum shove incident. Paige's physical move should have been a much bigger story considering the players involved, but it barely landed outside of WNBA circles. Now compare that to anything Clark does, whether it's a hard foul against her or a logo three, and you instantly see a massive gap in reaction. Clark takes a bump and it's debated for a full week. Paige throws a shove and it's forgotten within days. That's not balance, that's exposure disparity, and it clearly shows how artificial the rivalry conversation is when not even their controversies register the same way.
Lane, and there's the bump into the back of Plum.
So as you guys can see from this clip here, Paige gave her a push of a lifetime. Now this is so unlike Paige. I mean, Paige has gotten out of character. Could it be that the stress of this league is starting to get to Paige? The defensive guarding the whole systematic system that has been applied to her these last couple weeks has definitely been playing a factor. She's been dealing with, unreleased illnesses and shit. And could this be that she has reached a breaking point? I mean, Paige is just sick of it.
What's even wilder is that even Paige's most jaw-dropping on-court work often doesn't crack into mainstream pop culture. That 44-point game against the Sparks should have been plastered everywhere. Instead, it got muted coverage, not even leading major sports shows the next morning. Meanwhile, Clark's highlights trend on social media night after night, often overshadowing entire slates of games. When Indiana started climbing to the playoffs, it became absolutely impossible to sidestep Caitlin in sports discussion. Paige can stack numbers all day, but without a team turnaround, those stats never translate into sustained national buzz. That's why fans of Paige often feel like she's overlooked. Yet the truth is, coverage only follows where audiences are actually watching.
This conversation, if the referees just blew their whistle. Because the referees, realistically, should always blow their whistle in this scenario. These fouls should be called. And the referees are horrendous. And look, we all know that this would have caused think pieces and it would have had petitions to get Caitlin kicked out of the league and sent to Alcatraz with the alligators. Like, we know that. We all know that would happen. And if this was Angel Reese, she might have gotten chucked from a game.
And that brings us to the fundamental flaw at the core of this comparison. Attention isn't a resource you can cut into equal slices. It naturally pools around the players who capture imagination beyond the sport itself. Clark proved she can do that from day one. Paige, frankly, hasn't managed it yet. No matter how much a legend like Bird insists she deserves more, the audience decides differently. When Clark posts one injury update and racks up over 100,000 likes within an hour, it demonstrates a reach that simply cannot be manufactured. Legends or networks can try and redirect the spotlight, but that only exposes how lopsided things really are.
This is everything. It's a show. She's just way more exciting than Paige. That's why Paige is not as popular. Her game is kind of boring. I love her as a player. She's great. I say the same thing about Juju. It's a lot of free throws. It's a lot of elbow pull-ups. That's cool. Good hoop. Love it. It's not going to captivate an audience. People not buying tickets for it.
Ultimately, Clark's impact is cultural as much as athletic. She's pulling new generations into the WNBA, making teammates and even rivals household names just by association. Paige may still be respected and accomplished plenty, but hers will likely be a quieter career that sits in the shadow of Clark's global reach. And that's where the focus has to stay. Not on a rivalry that doesn't exist, but on the Fever's future and how Caitlin's star power keeps expanding the stage for everyone around her. While Caitlin Clark works through her injury, the obvious question is what that means for Paige Bueckers. For Indiana fans, the answer feels clear. It hardly matters, because Clark has already changed the landscape in just 2 years. Her rookie season ended with a playoff appearance, record-breaking attention, and a franchise that suddenly became a national attraction. Now compare that to Paige's Dallas Wings, who will finish at the bottom of the league and fail to generate the same energy. That heavy contrast explains why Bird's attempt to push Paige into Clark's lane never looked natural.
But as Caitlin Clark, Paige Bueckers isn't as fun to watch as Caitlin Clark. Her team stinks. Her team plays with zero effort. Paige Bueckers plays with no motor down the stretch because you know it's going to be a close game. You know the Wings are going to lose, and you know Paige Bueckers isn't going to show up every time. There was an opportunity with Caitlin gone for Paige Bueckers to take over. And what has Paige Bueckers done? She had a 44-point game in a loss where she didn't shoot down the stretch.
The uncomfortable truth is that stats on their own just don't produce buzz. Paige can go off for 40 points and still fade after a day of niche discussion. Clark, on the other hand, throws a single logo three, and it dominates SportsCenter loops for days. That's the insane level of reach and influence we're talking about. It's also why Indiana's roster has started to look like household names. Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, Kelsey Mitchell. Those aren't side characters anymore. Playing next to Clark positioned them on national platforms that go well beyond Indiana.
Entertainment. If you can't entertain the people, then you can't keep them seating and you can't keep them spending. Caitlin Clark entertains the people, and that is why Paige Beckers is not nearly as popular as Caitlin Clark. It don't have nothing to do with sexual orientation. It don't have nothing to do with her race. It don't have nothing to do with religious beliefs. It has nothing to do with if you're Democratic, Republican, none of that.
Meanwhile, Paige just hasn't had that same team impact. Her 44-point performance might have impressed hardcore fans, but without wins, those moments feel like flickers rather than a steady light. Dallas hasn't filled arenas the way Indiana has. They haven't driven television demand. They haven't moved significant merchandise. The Wings could have Buckers drop stat lines every single week, and it still wouldn't replicate the cultural wave Caitlin created in 1 year. The business side of it underlines the divide. Indiana's league-high attendance average of over 16,000 per game directly ties to Clark's arrival. Merchandise sales surged, and national broadcasts suddenly centered on the Fever as appointment viewing. Dallas didn't see any of that despite Paige's big rookie numbers. And when legends like Bird try to force comparisons, it backfires because the numbers and visibility show exactly how far apart their realities are. Clark's positioning is rock solid. Her trajectory already shows how a single player can not only break records but expand the league and boost teammates. That's authentic star power, and no outside endorsement can match the visibility she has already built. Caitlin Clark doesn't need Sue Bird or anyone else to validate her. The numbers, the sellouts, and the nightly highlights already prove a rise that goes beyond hype. Indiana has become the center of the league, with Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, and Kelsey Mitchell all elevated by Clark's presence. That's the real story. The Fever embody the new energy the WNBA wants in the playoffs. Legends can talk, but the truth is obvious. True stars don't need crowning or adjustments from media campaigns. The fans have already spoken, and their choice is Clark leading Indiana forward. So, why do you think Sue Bird has turned her back on Clark? Let us know down below if you're Team Caitlin or Team Paige. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.